today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Have I got some news for you? So today I'm going to do a live stream episode of the Cryptoverse. I'm going to stick to the regular Cryptoverse format, and that includes doing some Bitcoin and LiteCoin chart readings. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to go through the normal process. We're going to look at the market roundup. We're going to go through chart analysis. We're going to do a run through of the news and my commentary and analysis, and then episode of the Cryptoverse. Sorry, I had the stream going in the background there, so that messed me up a little bit there. So anyway, I shouldn't have been doing that. So anyway, then we're going to go through the news articles, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So jam-packed show, so let's roll the intro. And I'm back. Welcome to this episode of the Cryptoverse. I'm your host, Chris Coney. The Cryptoverse is your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. And today, normal episode of the Cryptoverse. I've already done that bit. I meant to say that bit after the intro, but there we go. You've had it twice now. So let's see what we've got here. I'm always looking at our ways to improve the Cryptoverse. And the daily format, quite frankly, it's consistently leading to me burning myself out. I don't want to sound like a complainer, but any of you who follow the Cryptoverse regularly will know that I periodically hit the wall and I physically have to, take a break because I'm just redlining it all the time. So that's not good, because if I want to provide value to the audience, if I'm not in a fit state, can't provide any value, can I? So it'll be better to scale it back and do it consistently rather than hitting the wall every so often and then going offline. So anyway, that was one of the big things I learned from my vacation, having been away for a while. The monumental amount of energy that it's going to require to start back up again. Anyway, that's why I've started with a live stream, because this is actually easier to prepare for, and then I create the content live rather than having to script it all and all that kind of thing. Of course, I've got notes and so on, but I think this will be better for the viewers, for you, and also better for me. So let's see how it goes. Now, this channel is only possible because of my generous patrons. So if you would like to become a patron, switching screens here, you can go to cryptovesty.com and click on the enroll button. You can pledge anywhere from $1 per month all the way up to $49 a month, and the more you pledge, the more you get. So at the $29 level, you get access to the Digital Money Revolution course and a private chat group where you can Q&A me at any time. And if you go up to $49 a month, you get access to all of my Cryptoversity courses, as you will see here. So you get all that, and you get a premium chat group that gets priority over Q&A, and you also get to support the Cryptoverse. So that's pretty good value if you ask me. So I'd much appreciate if you can buy the courses as a one-off as well if you like. So if you like what you hear on this live stream and you think I know what I'm talking about, and you'd like more formal education on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains, head over to Cryptoversity and check out the courses. So that's how we fund this whole thing. So the next thing we're going to go on to, that was sort of the announcements section. Now let's move swiftly on to market roundup. Okay. So what I need to do here is go to CoinMarketCap, share the old screen again. There it is. I've got a YouTube chat up, so we're going to do Q&A at the end. So stick your questions in there. Eddie S is already a patron. Good for you, mate. Thank you very much for that. Quinn's in the house. Saledex. Is it Saledex? Quinn is one of my patrons. I recognize him. He was one of the first patrons to start supporting me. So I honestly do appreciate that. It's the only way I'm able to do what I do. So anyway, let's get on with the market roundup, shall we? Let's see what we've got. So I haven't done a market roundup in a while because I've been away. So let's see what pops out to me. One of the big things obviously here is Bitcoin's dominance is now down to 45%. And that's largely due to, you can see here in second position, we've got Ethereum Core is now rocking someone's car's been broken into obviously. It's now rocking a $20 billion market cap. Now that is serious when you compare it to Bitcoin's 40 billion market cap. So Bitcoin is now only, and I say only, it's only double the market cap of Ethereum, which is very, very interesting. it's going to be, there was a big thing the other day. You see here where we've got the volumes, the trading volumes for the day. I did see the other day on the news, like people were like, oh my God, Ethereum has passed Bitcoin in 24-hour trading volume. Well, you have to be careful with this kind of thing, especially on Reddit. If something happens for like a split second, someone will post it and say, oh, look, what's happened? Like Bitcoin's trading volume is below Ethereum's for the first time ever. But then it might be just temporary and it vanishes again, goes back to the way it was. I mean, because if you look at it right now, 24-hour trading volumes, Bitcoin is more than double, right? Ethereum's trading volume. So you can't really take those sensational headlines as like it's going to be the way it is now, right? But anyway, that doesn't take anything away from Ethereum Core. It is becoming the platform of choice for many of these decentralized apps, increases demand for Ether, all these new custom tokens that are sprouting up based on Ethereum. So all of that is building the market cap of Ethereum Core. I remember when Ethereum first launched, actually. I remember reading the website before the project even launched. And I also remember checking CoinMarketCap back when Ethereum was less than $1. So it's interesting to kind of step back and say, Ethereum is $222, man. And it's not been that long either, has it? It's only been a couple of years. So yeah, definitely revolutionary times. We all know that. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. You see, we've got this $1 billion club here from 1 to 7. Dash is now back up at $1 billion. And this was a little rascal that peeped up. You know, Stratos, excuse me, I've talked about Stratos before, haven't I, on the Cryptoverse? Actually, I need to keep an eye on the light here. I'm running a bit of a risk by shooting in daylight rather than putting my studio lights on because natural light produces a better image. However, if it gets darker, my image is going to get darker. So I might have to boost the old exposure a little bit here. That's the downside of doing it live, I suppose. You have to kind of adjust things on the fly. Let's see if I can improve this just a little bit. I'm going to sort of go a bit, there we go. That's better, isn't it? That'll compensate for the daylight a little bit. Anyway, the little rascal that we call Stratos. Yeah, I talked about this on the Cryptoverse a few times when it was way down, just tickling the top 20 and so on. So that's the blockchain app platform that is going to be building decentralized apps using the .NET framework, I believe. So let's just go and verify that. And I said this was a good idea because it allows all those existing .NET developers and C# developers to start using blockchain technology without having to understand blockchain technology, right? You know, technology is always layered. Like the internet, a web developer doesn't necessarily have to understand server infrastructure or all that kind of stuff, you know, content delivery networks, stuff like that. All they have to do is know how to program a bit of web development code and they can build themselves a website, even though that's based on lots and lots of other layers of technology. So we don't want all existing software developers to have to learn the technical in and outs of cryptography and all this other stuff. They don't, you know, they're just a user of these technologies. So Stratos is like a toolkit for folks to just pick up and use. And it's quite common in software development, right? For people to build like libraries of functionality. Like when I was at university, I never sat down and wrote the in and outs of a calendar system. Someone had already developed that, right? The idea that there are 30 days in most months. Some months have 31 days and so on. Someone's already built a library for that. So you just import it and you can use that functionality right out of the box. So people aren't reinventing the wheel all the time. So this is how I see the value in Stratos. It's going to provide all of that blockchain in a box technology without having to understand what's in the box, right? And that's cool because there are a lot of C# and .NET developers out there ready to take advantage of this new technology. And developers, techies love new tech, right? So this is good stuff. It was a big surprise that it rocketed so quickly, though. I mean, even today, look, it's up 52%, which is enormous. I personally, because I've been out of it a little bit, I've not investigated any reason why this might have happened. Sometimes you just get that, you just get a crest of a wave, people suddenly cotton onto, oh my God, this is huge, and then it starts rocketing up. A lot of this massive growth in crypto values, in my view, is because as soon as you hear about it, if you're an investor and you've been investing for a while in regular assets like gold and real estate and stocks and so on, There is a lot of money around the world that's chasing yield, right? It's chasing decent returns on investments. And because most things are in a bubble right now, like bonds and real estate and the stock market, and stocks are way overvalued, right? If you watch Michael Maloney's channel, the Gold Silver channel, he talks about how much he compares company earnings in the S&P 500 to the stock value, right? So just imagine, like, if you bought a house and rented it out, the amount you can rent it out for depends on obviously the market demand, but also you need to buy a house at a certain price so that the rental turns a profit. But what you wouldn't do is have, say, a house that was worth like $5 million and then be renting it out for a few $100s a month, which is almost what is happening in the stock market. The price of the stocks, which is like the price of the house, they're really, really high, but the earnings of those companies are way, way out of balance, right? So the companies are way overvalued. That's what Michael Maloney has been talking about for a while. What that means is putting your money into stocks doesn't really give that much of a return because you're paying a lot for the share in the first place, but the company earnings aren't enough to pay you a decent return. So that's one of the reasons why the stock market isn't giving investors the returns that it used to. And it's similar with other asset classes. Once that asset class gets too high, the income from that asset is relatively low compared to the value. So when these investors discover this stuff, these assets are so small by comparison, there's still a lot of growth to go, which is why we see these massive explosions. And you can say, 52% increase in market cap, but that's only, in real terms, it's only, $200 or $300 million, which is relatively small. So it looks like a lot, 52%, but in real money, it's not really that much. Considering that even the whole cryptoverse is still only worth 87, 88 billion, which is still very, very small. So it doesn't take much money coming in for it to inflate all of the crypto asset values, right? So the point of all that is that there's all this money around the world, investors' money, chasing yield and looking for good returns. And I don't think you could argue against these kinds of numbers, crypto and blockchain projects offering, well, some of the best returns on any investment anywhere right now. It's just a case of whether people know about it or not, understand it or not, and then know how to invest in it, right? So that's someone says 300 million is small. Well, large and small, they're relative, aren't they? So what? The foreign exchange market, the daily volume on that's what, like $3 or $4 trillion a day is traded in foreign exchange. So when you look at it like that, you compare 3 or 4 trillion a day with the crypto space, which is doing 3 billion every 24 hours. It's tiny by comparison, right? Someone says the byte. Well, Bitcoin, I don't understand that. I just don't understand why that's got such a high value. I mean, one of its selling points, of course, is that they offer free transactions. There's no transaction fees, but I haven't dug into how that's actually possible. If there's no transaction fees, then there's got to be something else going on there. But I'm not going to speak on that because I don't know what I'm talking about in relation to Bitcoin. I've just found it very uninteresting as a coin myself, but seeing as it's stuck at 9th market cap, it probably is worth investigating. But even for me, doing this sort of full time, it's still now impossible to keep on top of everything. I just do the best I can, and hopefully that's enough, or at least it provides some value. Anyway, what else we got here? I hold quite a lot of Dash, so I like to see the Dash price going up. I thought 100 was the all-time high for Dash, but I think it did go beyond this, $138, but it's still been creeping up. What else can we say about the market roundup here? I like to look at Steem as well, because I post all my content on Steem right there in 18th place. And nice to see Sirecoin up here. I've got the guy from Storage. I'm scheduled to do an interview with him. Sean Wilkinson, his name is. He's one of the founders, and he was in the news recently because he changed his title from CEO to CTO, which is Chief Technology Officer. There was a bit of controversy around that because people were like, "Oh, why are you stepping down as CEO?" I think the answer to that, and I think I'll ask him this question, is I think it's just a case of people playing to their strengths. So he's a tech guy, so he's better off as the Chief Technology Officer. And because if he's not a management guy, CEO is kind of it's a management position mainly. So if there's someone with better skills, better for him to change his job title and let someone else who's stronger on that than him do that job, right? So anyway, Storage Coin and Siacoin, they're the two sort of decentralized storage platforms. They're different in the sense that, and I'm going to ask Sean this to clarify, storage only really gets talked about in the crypto space because it uses a cryptocurrency, whereas it's not really based on a blockchain, not the actual storage system itself, whereas Siacoin has that more baked into a blockchain. But I'll have to get the Siacoin people on and discuss that with them as well. Right now, I'm acutely aware of the limited amount of time I've got. I've already burnt up 15 minutes here, so I'm going to leave the market roundup there, just give you a few highlights on that. Let's switch back to the main screen here and move on to the next segment, which is Bitcoin chart reading. So I'm going to look at the Bitcoin price chart and then the LiteCoin price chart, and then we'll get into the bulk of it when I want to do news and analysis, which is going to probably take up a bit. Well, I've got 5 or 6 stories to talk about, so I've done that on purpose. So you don't get bored with one single story. I'd rather do lots of little things in a live stream or an episode rather than harping on about one single thing for a while. So let's move on then to the Bitcoin price chart. I've set the white theme here for the Bitcoin price chart because I thought it was easier to see on the old stream there. Now, what's interesting about reading candlestick charts is every so often you get this shift in perspective. So like these candle ranges, right? This is on bitcoinwisdom.com, and I'm looking at the Bitstamp price of Bitcoin over the last, 3 or 4 months. So it goes right back to March time, or February, mid-February. And the chart, it looks less meaningful when you've got all these tiny candles that seem to be the same size, but they're not. It's just because the larger ones in view are completely distorting it. So with this, you can click and drag the chart, and then it readjusts itself based on the size of the chart, the size of the candles that are in view. So if I get rid of all those big ones, it suddenly starts to become more meaningful. You can see the relative difference between the candle sizes. So all this suddenly shrinks, into very small candles when you see all these recent moves. So we went right up here to what was the high of this day. This was $2,760, which is insane, considering that didn't we start the year below 1,000? And I remember on the Cryptoverse speculating like, when are we going to hit 1,000? And we're already hit nearly 3,000, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, the biggest thing holding back Bitcoin, as we all know, is the network capacity and the fees, right? I didn't do too bad today. A few people who purchased the Secrets of the Bitcoin Triangle course asked for the free Bitcoin that comes with the course, and I think I paid for each of those transactions individually 52 pence. So that's 52 pence in pounds sterling. So what is that? If I get a calculator up here, get the Windows calculator. Windows calculator just crashed. Can you believe that? Let's go back to it. There we go. What did I say? 52 pence, and it's about $1.25, 65 cents. I think that isn't bad. It's not what I was used to back in the day when we used to be spending 10 cents on a Bitcoin transaction, but that's by the by. But let me get into the actual reading of this chart, which is what this segment is supposed to be for. The first comment I made was about the size of these candles, right? So when you wave your mouse over any one of these candles on Bitcoin Wisdom, what you want to look at is things like, you see where here it says change a percentage and it says amplitude. So just like a sound wave, like the amplitude is, how much it waxes and wanes in an up and down fashion, and the change is the range of the candle itself. So like on this day, it says minus 10.43%. Now that's only talking about the main red body of the candle. Like on most candles, you have a head and a tail. Well, that's the total trading range for the day. So the highest ever went and the lowest ever went. But when you look at the change number, like down 10%, it doesn't count the high and the low. It only counts the difference between the opening and the close on that particular day. Now, yes, I know I've said this a million times. Bitcoin doesn't really open and close as such. It's a 24-hour market, but a day has to end somewhere, right? 1 minute past midnight, to midnight the next day. That's considered like a trading day in Bitcoin. And it very much depends what time zone you're on, right? Depending on when that 24-hour period will start and end. So your chart might look slightly different to this, depending on when your day, if you like, starts and ends and when the chart draws itself. I do believe this is calibrated to your local time zone, because down here, this is my local time zone. It's 5:49 p.m. So it may be different for you if you're in a different time zone. But anyway, so that was that. And then the amplitude thing is the rate at which the volatility is increasing, right? But having said that, though, despite all this volatility, today we're at 2,441, and that's pretty much where we were on the 24th of May, which was, when was that? Was that a week ago? That's more than a week ago. So it has moved around quite a lot in the meantime, but it is back to where it was. Why is that significant? Well, if you're a long-term holder, all that craziness doesn't even matter. It does matter if you're a Bitcoin business. Let's say people using Pairs, or I don't know, anyone like that, because or anyone who's accepting Bitcoin as payment, you don't want the price flapping around like that, and that's why a lot of companies will liquidate their Bitcoin as soon as they receive it, because this was a classic thing when Bitcoin was below $500. Companies would receive the Bitcoin and immediately turn it back into dollars or pounds because they didn't want it to flap around in value. Of course, it could go up as well, but the fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain, right? All right, let me make a final note on this in terms of a technical reading. These horizontal lines that I've got here, this is my favorite indicator. It's a Fibonacci retracement line. So if I right click on these, it will delete them. Hang on, we select the Fibonacci tool first. This is specifically a feature of Bitcoin Wisdom. So once I've got this Fibonacci retracement thing selected, if I right click, it will delete it. And what I look for is a single move up, right? See, now the sun's coming back out again. I look too bright, so I'm gonna have to adjust that again. Sorry. This is the danger of Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? Does that look alright? Looks alright, isn't it? I'll leave the forbidden controls open in case I need to change it again. Anyway, this is how to apply a Fibonacci retracement line. So I'm looking for a single move, right? A bottom and a top. I don't want a lot of waves. So let me just show you how I do this. This is the most recent bottom down here, 891. So I'll click that once. That sets the first bit of the Fibonacci retracement line. And then you see it sticks to your cursor. So I would move it up to, say, that peak. But we've gone past that now, so I'd move it up right up to this peak here. And generally, the more data that it's based on, right, the more time, the more candles that the Fibonacci lines are based on, the more accurately they'll predict, what's going to happen next, right? So, for example, that's not so much of a coincidence here. If I go back to the crosshair, if I'd have done this at the time when we hit that 2,760 high, it would have predicted this section here. You see where it's these two candles are resting on a price of about 2,043. This is something called the 38% Fibonacci retracement line. Fibonacci retracements is a mathematical concept. It's a pattern in nature. You can look into it, but I don't think anyone knows quite how this works, to be honest. It's one of those secrets of nature, but it does work. And just like most things, you don't necessarily have to know exactly how they work in order to use them for their benefits. So for me, it's a good way of predicting price movements or increasing the probability of your estimates and your guesses about price being more often right than wrong. And that's all you can ask for really in these kinds of things. So I've encouraged you, if you want to draw your own Fibonacci retracement lines and then do what I've just done there, you'll just look at it, just monitor it and see where the price interacts and see if these indicators do what they're supposed to do. Generally, these lines will act as what we call support and resistance in trading, which is either a ceiling that the price can't get above or a floor that the price can't go below. So generally, you would buy at a support line, which like here would be down here, and then you would sell at a resistance line because the chances are it's not going to break above that, in both cases. So, and it's all probabilities. There is no certainty around this. Eventually, I'll get around to do a trading course and you'll understand this in more detail. But that's all I'll say about the Bitcoin price chart, other than the massive volume we've had recently. That's no surprise either. A bit of a new one. Let's flip over to the LiteCoin chart. Again, this is on Bitcoin Wisdom, and this is the US dollar price. Same sort of thing going on here. Look at the sun. Look, it's been messing me about. I'm going to have to turn on the auto light adjustment here. Oh my goodness, now I've gone really orange, haven't I? Oh, silly me. There. Hey, this is the thing about live streaming, isn't it? Now look, the sun's coming right through on me now. So anyway, back to the point. So LiteCoin has the same thing going on here. You see how these little candles look absolutely tiny compared to all this stuff. Whereas if we get rid of them by swiping across here, you see how it readjusts itself. If we delete all of that, that's what the LiteCoin price chart would have looked like back in, what was this? March 28th. So price is all over the place. To me, this is completely untradeable, this view, because it's ranging, up and down in between whatever, $5 and $3.50. So there's no predictable price movement. There's no trend there, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, on that day, whenever that was, the price kind of explodes and completely changes the whole perspective on things. Now, that happens generally when there's not a lot of trading going on. When we talk about liquidity, right? The more trading that's going on, the more money that's going in and out of the LiteCoin or the Bitcoin ecosystem, the calmer the price movements, right? Because there'll be an equal amount, a balance of power on both ends of the buying and selling. So that's another thing about crypto being so young and still relatively little money flowing around in it. That's why the swings are still quite wild. But so it's kind of good and bad. It's good in the sense that at the moment we're seeing some people are making gains of like 50% in a day. But the downside of that is that some big whale can come in and completely slap the price about. So if we want stability, that's fine. But also then those wild opportunities to make huge gains will also disappear at the same time. So swings and roundabouts, there's a time for everything, isn't there? So that's my LiteCoin analysis on that. I can't really draw any indicators on this because it's been too soon since this massive price increase. It's going to be reasonably meaningless. I mean, you could. Let's see what happens if we take that low down there and stick it right up there. It may not be very meaningless, but we could still draw it. There you go. There seems to be a bit of interaction, but Bitcoin's still going wild over here. You know what I mean? And it's gone back to doing that sideways thing. You see how it looks pretty wild, but over the last couple of months, it's been sat between $20 and $35. So it'll either, I expect it to continue in price long term because LiteCoin is now the most credible alternative to Bitcoin. And I keep hearing story after story about people switching to LiteCoin because Bitcoin's so jammed, right? And actually, I'm going to talk about that in one of the news stories. Right, let's go on to the news stories, shall we? Let me come back to camera screen here. Oh, look at this. It's not so bad. I'm slowly letting go of perfectionism because that stops me from doing a lot of things. So that's why I'm not too bothered about this. I would usually freak out about the imperfections in my live stream, but it's not so much about that. It's more about just sharing the information, right? All right, so let's move on to the news. So big news came out when I was away. ShapeShift, the exchange where you can exchange pretty much any cryptocurrency for any other cryptocurrency. You don't have to have an account for ShapeShift. That's kind of the big selling point. Not the best exchange rates in the industry, however, very, very useful, especially if you want to exchange it anonymously, no account, no ID, all that kind of stuff, right? So they launched this new thing called Prism. I saw them hyping it up on Twitter, actually, and I thought, sounds interesting. If it's from a company like ShapeShift, and if you've ever heard Eric Voorhees talk, he's quite a smart guy, right? He created that Satoshi Dice was his initial success story, right? Where he had a Bitcoin dice game, sold that. Because he said on a recent interview, he said he didn't want to be Eric the gambler guy, right? So he had to let that go and move on to a different project, which was ShapeShift. Anyway, So we all know that like trading and investing, that's sort of one of the hottest industries, one of the hottest use cases for crypto right now. I guess everything starts out like that. Speculation is, I guess, the bedrock of a new asset or a new industry, I suppose. Because when you say speculation, it's almost like people betting on the future success. That's basically what speculation is. So people think something's going to be successful. Speculation is right behind it, right? So Prism launched, and it's pretty well aligned with what ShapeShift do. Because if you consider ShapeShift to be an exchange, then the Prism thing I think it's a logical expansion of that. At the moment, they don't really interact, but I would expect a project like Prism to come out of a company like ShapeShift, right? It's a sister, a neighbor, a cousin. It's close enough. So they launched it, and then they've quickly come out with this update saying they've revised their fees. So let me see how quickly I can describe what Prism is for anyone who doesn't know. So at Prism, they've called it that because a prism, like in the real world, is a sort of a clear glass structure, and you shine a beam of light into it, like white light, and then it splits it into all of the spectrum colors, right? That's pretty much what they want to do with your cryptocurrency. So in the Prism, this tool, the light that goes into it would be Ethereum. So you get a bunch of Ethereum and you stick it into a prism, right? A prism as in this thing. And then you decide what colors of the rainbow you want to come out the other side. So you might want to gain or make money whenever Dash goes up, and LiteCoin and Monero, say. So you could put in $100 worth of Ether. This is Ethereum core tokens. And then you would split that into whatever, a third Dash, a third LiteCoin, a third Monero. And then what will happen is that if, say, Dash doubles in price, then your Prism, that part of your Prism will double in price. So what we said $100 in, say we put $33 into Dash. If Dash doubles in price, that Dash holding is now worth $66. But, and this is a key question I've seen people ask online, does Prism actually go out and buy the real Dash for you? The answer is no, right? It's almost a virtual investment portfolio. So what that means is the way you're going to make money from this is that ShapeShift, or Prism rather, are going to they're going to take the other side of that bet. So if you say, I put money on Dash, $33 on it, and I want it to go up in value. If Dash in the markets doubles in value, to say, so your holdings go from $33 to $66, well, where does that money come from? Well, it comes out of Prism's pocket, basically. So when you put that $100 into your Prism, it goes into a smart contract, then ShapeShift also put $100 worth of Ether in there as well. So now there are $200 in your Prism. So that allows then for your holdings in their entirety to double in value. If that happens, based on however you split it up, then you get the $100 worth of Ethereum that ShapeShift put in there, right? That's how come you can double your portfolio. It is a maximum of a doubling though, right? Because ShapeShift are putting in an equal amount to what you're putting in. Oh, that's really bright now, isn't it? I have to do something about that, sorry. I'll put the blinds in a little bit here. Oh, that's still terrible. I'm sorry about this. That's the reason why I never do the daylight thing, because it just it really doesn't. It's an unpredictable light source, right? That's the problem. That's why people don't do this. I was just trying to make it easier to do a stream when I came back. Yeah, that's a bit better. I've kind of put the blind across now. The thing I don't like about that is going to be in the recording, but never mind. Anyway, so ShapeShift is going to risk their money basically. They're going to put Ethereum into your Prism, and then if you lose money, then they'll keep that Ethereum, and if you win money, it'll come out of their pocket, right? Now, why the hell would they be willing to do this? Well, because they're going to get exposure to all the price movements across all coins, so they can't really lose. It's difficult to understand that if you don't understand how brokers work and how they can take the other side of a trade, and then they can't really lose because they're charging fees on it, right? So let's talk about the fees. So to use a Prism, where's the fees here? Here we go. The original was a 1% fee per month, which was interesting. So if you put $100 into your Prism, they charge you $1 a month on that. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's what people had the most trouble with. They didn't like that idea. Then if you want to close your Prism at any point and then basically liquidate all of your coins and withdraw the Ethereum out of it, they charge 0.05 Ether and 2.4% of whatever the portfolio was worth. So again, if it was $100, if the value of your Prism was $100 when you closed it, $2.40 in fees, right? Excuse me. And then when they talk about a rebalancing fee, if you do have one that's like a third Dash, a third LiteCoin, a third Monero, and you want to rebalance that to, half Dash, 25% LiteCoin, 25% Monero, they charge you 0.5% on that as well. So it's kind of interesting. So it's not. I know people will balk at that because they you have to then make that money back, don't you? So every time you're paying a fee on your portfolio, that's money that would have otherwise been in your investment. So I can understand why people don't want to pay fees, but they're providing a service here, aren't they? This saves you from having to set up all the different kinds of wallets and create all the different kinds of backup phrases and all that kind of stuff, right? All you have to do is get Ethereum, put it in a smart contract, and then make money if the coins you choose go up in value, right? So that's basically what Prism are doing. I did make an attempt there to describe how on earth that's possible from ShapeShift's point of view as a business, but that can get really complicated. So I'll just focus on what it is from the user's point of view. It's just a way of creating a portfolio of coins that are backed by Ethereum, and then you don't have to manage all the different wallets and so on. So maybe I'll talk about that on a future episode, or maybe do a dedicated one on it, because it's quite a big one, that one. And that does look a lot better now, doesn't it? So yeah, I've been up quite a bit of time talking about that. I only meant to skip over it. But it's interesting that they did revise the fees, right? I said they started out with that 1% per month fee on your holdings. They've now scrapped that. So for the time being, at least, I think it says, the new fee structure is that they're not going to charge you a monthly fee. So you'll put your Ethereum into your Prism, and that's it. You can split it up however you want. And then when you close the Prism, it's 2.4% of the portfolio value that gets taken out as a fee. Now, given the returns we just talked about in the market roundup, say you doubled your money, right? Then I suppose 2.4% in that regard isn't too bad, but you pay the 2.4% whether you make money or not, because you're paying that for the service, right? Prism aren't providing you with any investment advice or guidance and stuff. It's just a tool, right? So yeah, and also every time you rebalance it, costs you 0.5%. So you don't want to be doing that too often, do you? Because it'll just erode your returns and stuff. So that's that in it. Right, moving on. I was speaking about companies, people, organizations shifting from Bitcoin to LiteCoin. Well, here's another one. This article was from the Institute of Cryptoanarchy. This whole article on their Medium blog is why we switched to LiteCoin as our main cryptocurrency. I don't know if you heard me report on this, but someone says am I on the Ethereum train? What does that mean? I try and be objective about these things and don't particularly want to attach myself to any particular coin and say this is the be all and end all. I think they all have their own uses, don't they? Definitely Bitcoin and Ethereum are clearly the kings right now. Just turning the brightness up again. So back to the point though, I'm seeing one news story after another of companies finding that the Bitcoin network is just impractical to base anything on, and they're switching. So this Institute of Cryptoanarchy, they've got this area where it's for like entrepreneurs and whatnot. You can read this article if you want to. I'll have to update the YouTube description and put all the links to these stories, but I did read this story earlier on. Yeah, they're saying things like LiteCoin's got much greater capacity and quicker block times and all that sort of stuff. And it's basically the fees. Like they're saying, within the last 2 years, we have seen Bitcoin transaction fees go up in price the whole idea of using Bitcoin was to get rid of traditional banking fees, and that's gone now, right? So a standard transaction fee can be as much as $1.50, and which they say is no longer viable for microtransactions, for even mixed casual retail, too expensive to do. So they'll still take Bitcoin for their services and so on, but they don't recommend it anymore, right? They said using cryptocurrencies should give regular users an advantage, but Bitcoin does not. So that kind of plays into the way I've spoke about Bitcoin and Litecoin as like the gold and the silver, the digital gold being Bitcoin and the digital silver being Litecoin. So that's fine. And because they're so similar technologies, like with the Yours network, I reported on that recently, they found it easy to port their technology from Bitcoin to Litecoin. And when I hear people talk about this, the developers, they say, well, it requires little to no changes to their product in order to support Litecoin because it's a fork, right? So that's pretty cool for Litecoin. So yes, that's cool. I've thought about it as well for paying affiliates. For last time I did a live stream, and when I did a giveaway, I gave away Litecoin because there was no way I could give away $1 here or $1 there of Bitcoin, because of the transaction fees. It's just impossible. There are a number of actual donations to the Cryptoverse for like $1, $1.50 that have been sat. So this is me receiving it. They've been sat waiting to confirm for days and days. So it's not a good look, is it? It's not a good look at all for Bitcoin right now. But fortunately, we do have Litecoin to fall back on, so that's a good thing. Right, snapping on to the next story then. I want to keep you guys engaged here. Don't want to waffle on. What was the other big news recently? Check this out. I was a big fan of the basic attention token. I say was. I still am a fan of it. But this crowd sale came and went while I was away. The 31st was actually the day I was flying back to the UK. So I completely missed it. Despite me talking about it at great length and recommending it and having full intention to pledge to this campaign myself, I completely missed it, and so did everybody else. I think it was a matter of minutes. There was some headlines that said this was sold out in a few blocks, and on Ethereum that's like, how much is the block? 15 seconds or something. So that was like less than a minute. This completely sold out. 35 million US dollars worth of Ethereum was raised. So what are the criticisms of this? There's been a few criticisms of the way it was run, and largely people were saying the problem is because it was capped, right? Well, because it was capped, we've ended up with like an elite. I think it's like someone said something like 5 accounts own half of the Ethereum or something like that. Actually, we can look at this. I've got the notes right here. If I copy the address for the BAT token, right, let's go back to the screen share a minute. So if we go to Etherscan, which is a block explorer for Ethereum, here you've got this token menu, right? And if you go down to ERC20 token search, and ERC20 is just it's a standard for creating Ethereum-based tokens. So all of these are ERC20 based tokens. So like you got Humanic, Aragon, all these kind of stuff. There's BAT actually, interesting tokens. So I don't need to paste in the address. I can just click on this. And here it is. The interesting bit is here, the tab that's called Token Holders. And then you click on Holders Chart. There we go, right? So this address owns 24.4% of all of the basic attention tokens. So if you don't know what basic attention token is, have a look back through the Cryptoverse episodes. Look for the interview with Brendan Eich, who's the founder of this. Look for any episode where I talk about a Brave software and the Brave browser, because the basic attention token is the next stage in the project that is Brave software. They're going to revolutionize people's attention and kind of remove fraud from the online advertising industry and stop all the intrusive ads and help content creators get paid without having ads plastered all over the page and this kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. So yeah, I use the Brave browser on my phone because, like you'll hear from the interview with Brendan Eich, it can save your phone battery, it can save your data plan, it can save all kinds of things by blocking ads. So anyway, yeah, check this out for yourself. This is the distribution of the basic attention tokens. These are the big whales. Look, You've got someone with 24%, someone with 9%, 8%, and so on. So how many tokens were there? I think it says it on their blog, but yeah, basically people weren't happy that some big whales came in and just scooped up a whole bunch of these in a matter of minutes. There was also kind of an interesting piece of news where someone pledged to the crowdfund, and I think this is right. They included a Ethereum transaction fee of something like $2,000. Now, why would someone do that? Well, because if you're an Ethereum miner and you see a transaction that's proposed offering a fee of $2,000 worth of Ethereum, your chances of processing that one first are quite high, aren't they? So to make sure that their pledge to the crowdfund got through before anyone else's, they included this massive fee, which is kind of an interesting strategy. It's kind of fair in the sense that they're playing by the rules. It's perfectly legitimate in terms of the rules of the network, but that's what upset a lot of people. So, and it was because there was a cap. Once it sold out, any of the smaller investors like me or you didn't really stand a chance of getting hold of any, right? So it sold out within minutes. On the other hand, though, right? Not minutes. Someone says, yeah, Eddie says 30 seconds. I was erring on the side of caution there because, I just wanted to be fair to it. I didn't want to overhype it. I'd rather underplay it than overplay it. You know me. I don't like hyping stuff unless it's warranted. Okay, he says only people running nodes were able to pledge. It's kind of interesting. People say they use the Brave browser and so on. That's cool, isn't it? So anyway, I was going to kind of create a hedge there. If they didn't have a cap, though, that was the criticism of the DAO. You remember when the DAO blew up? The criticism of that is because there was no cap on the amount of money raised. You know, and the reason that was such a catastrophe is because there was so much money in the DAO. You know, I see my lights all being adjusted again here. There we go. So anyway, that's what happened with the basic attention token. They've raised their money. I'm not too upset that I missed out on it. Mainly, I was interested in the project because I wanted to see it happen. And there's plenty of other opportunities to invest in ICOs, so I won't be too upset if you missed it either. But kind of never a dull day in the world of crypto, is there? Never a dull day. So that was the Ether scan. Go to the token search thing, click on the basic attention token, and there we go. There was actually another note that I made here about, Vitalik Buterin, who was one of the creators of Ethereum. I've got a tweet from him here. Look. He says he puts Etherscan, and he puts the link to this transaction. This is kind of interesting. There's the fee, 2,183 Ether. He says this is a $2,220 transaction fee used to cut in line for the BAT ICO. Ethereum average transaction fee of $1 includes statistics. Statistics include stuff like this. So of course, when people quote Ethereum transaction fees being an average of $1, if someone includes a $2,000 transaction fee, that's going to way inflate the average, isn't it? And it's going to misrepresent how much an average Ethereum transaction costs, right? I mean, I sent an Ethereum transaction today for like 20 cents. So that was not bad at all. So yeah, interesting times. And that's I've just said it, I'll say it again. It's technically illegal though, right? It's allowed by the network. There's nothing stopping people from including those kinds of transaction fees, but it does have knock-on effects like increasing the average cost of transactions, statistically speaking, not actually, because once the crowdfund came and went, the network settled back down to normal again. But during that time, it kind of clogged Ethereum up a little bit. Anyway, right, let's move on. I'm not really covering stories very quickly here. Next story I've got here is the Chinese exchanges have resumed withdrawals. You remember when there was a bit of a panic a few months ago? People's Bank of China was like, come on, you Bitcoin exchanges, you need to stop, you need to halt customer withdrawals from your exchange until we do a big old regulatory review on you. And that caused a bit of panic at the time because we thought, does that mean that the exchanges are doing something illegal or what is it? But anyway, then it was only supposed to be for a certain amount of time, like 3 days, 30 days, whatever it was. And it's ended up being a lot longer than that. So that's kind of spooked people for a while. Finally, it looks like the regulatory reviews are over. and things are back on track. This story here from the Merkel, which was from yesterday, actually. It says here, Bitcoin's price rises as the big three Chinese exchanges resume withdrawals. Pretty good. So that's good news for, well, it's good news for China. However, does it mean that people holding their Bitcoin on those exchanges are now going to be like quick to withdraw their funds, right? Is it going to spook them, or are they going to carry on trading? Who knows? Depends on your appetite for risk, I guess. I think what was strange about this story is that, it says here, weird withdrawal limits. You can withdraw $23,000 worth of Bitcoin and or $230,000 worth of Ether and $5,000 worth of LiteCoin, which is weird because if you've got massive amounts of money on the exchange, well, there's an incentive there to actually use the exchange, convert all of your Bitcoin and LiteCoin to Ethereum, and then you can withdraw it at the rate of $230,000. I assume that's per day or something, or whatever the limit is, per day, per week, doesn't matter, does it? The fact that you can withdraw so much more Ethereum than the other coins, you just exchange your holdings for Ether and then withdraw it, because you've got then next to no limits on that, which is kind of interesting. If that happens though, what does that do? That creates demand for Ethereum and pushes the Ethereum price up. Hey, crazy stuff, isn't it? I honestly don't know the rationale behind that. It says here, why would you allow users to withdraw almost 10 times more Ethereum than you would Bitcoin? I don't know. Why would you do that? It creates an incentive to trade for Ethereum, doesn't it? So, interesting article from the Merkel there. It is good news, though, that they've resumed withdrawals, right? And that's kind of bringing to a close a story that's been going on for a very, very long time, right? Okay, moving on to the next story here. Do you remember back in, I can't remember what it was, last year sometime, there was something called SteemFest, right? SteemFest. SteemFest is an event organized by, what was his name? Roland. I can't remember his second name. Sorry about that. Where's Roland? Roland's this web developer guy who's a big active Roland P. I know him as, here he is. But he spontaneously organized an event in Amsterdam last year for Steem, right? The Steem project, the Steem blockchain. And it actually was a smash success. Even though he kind of spontaneously organized it, and he did a stellar job. I actually went to it because Amsterdam is 1 hour flight away from me. I went there. There was a huge turnout, like 200 people turned out, which was insane. Which just kind of shows the passion of the Steem community. Anyway, the news is SteemFest 2 has been announced for, I guess, is this SteemFest 2017 we could call it, I guess? Anyway, the dates are the 1st, 2nd and 3rd. That's the official conference. And then they've put here 4th to 5th because they're thinking about doing some like extracurricular activities on the back end of it, like sightseeing, surfing day is on the cards, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So I've got a lot of respect for Roland P. He really does have a heart for this stuff, and he's a big fan of Ethereum, of Steem, and considering he's not a professional event planner, he did an amazing job at SteemFest 1. He really, really did do a good job. So because this is in Europe, if you read the story, he tried to schedule this one in the United States, but had a whole bunch of problems and it fell apart. So now he's rescheduled this one for Lisbon in Portugal. Good for me because it's in Europe, so it makes it easy for me to attend, right? In November, though, there is another seminar coming up. There's a marketing seminar that I plan to go to, which is in Las Vegas, believe it or not, in November. So that might be 2 trips too close together. As Boss Lady in the chat here saying, I'm planning to attend SteemFest this year. Anyone else? Well, I'll have to wait and see. I'm pretty sure that I've already committed myself in my mind to go into this marketing seminar. It's very, very important, this, because it's a seminar about market research. It's how to really, really understand your audience and what they want, right? Which is the key to the whole game. That's why I have a chat, which is why I read all the YouTube comments, because the the only way I can serve you to the best of my ability is if I know what your problems are, your challenges are, what you want to learn, all that sort of stuff. And the more I understand that, the more value I can be. So that particular skill of figuring out what's really valuable to you is it's the number one skill that I want to develop. So because the better I can serve you, the better it is for everybody. And the better it is for me, because the more value I provide, the more valuable I'll become, and so on, right? A few people saying they've missed me. That's what I like to hear. I do like to hear that. Missed you all too. I did say I did plan to put some content out while I was away, but it just didn't happen. There was an unrealistic expectation of mine. I was just so active. There was no time at all where I wasn't absolutely exhausted, or just didn't stop the whole time. So that's just by the way. Someone's talking about Jimmy Song's article called "Skin in the Game." Not quite sure what that is about. We'll get to Q&A in a bit. But so I'm really running out of time here. I want to keep this within an hour. This is the first time I've done like a full Cryptoverse format with rapid fire news, so I should have been quicker with this. I'm trying not to provide too much analysis. I'm trying to sort of do a quick fire news. So let's see if we can get these last two stories out the door, and then we'll do a quick bit of Q&A before we close. Oh yes, sad news, this next one. You know Ross Ulbricht, the creator of the Silk Road marketplace, right? Well, he got his double life sentence. So he made a mistake in his technological security one day. He accidentally, I don't know, I think he posted his email address or something on a forum, which was able to then link to his identity or something. Anyway, he de-anonymized himself one day, and then the FBI was able to identify him and then arrest him, and then he got charged with all kinds of things for running the Silk Road marketplace. And the argument was that the defense is that while the Silk Road had a lot of illegal goods being sold on it, the technical point of law is or how responsible is he as the owner of the website? All he was doing was providing a marketplace, a free marketplace for people to trade on whatever they wanted to, right? And it was all anonymous. It was on Tor and all that kind of stuff. And he used Bitcoin as the currency. That's why it was super popular, right? So they did him for it. Anyway, the specific charges escape me right now, but the news that came out yesterday is this. Basically, the appeal has been denied because he was given like a double life sentence, and his mother, Lynn Ulbricht, who's become somewhat of a celebrity, a respected celebrity in the cryptocurrency space, she's been kind of dedicating all of her time to Ross's legal defense. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, it's been denied, right? What's queer about the ruling, though, as I think this article says, 3 judges in the appellate court denied Ross Ulbricht's appeal while at the same time criticizing United States drug policies, which is kind of interesting. So this story basically boils down to, what's that? Bitcoin.com's gone crazy on me because of the width of the page. Let's see if I can fix that. I'll just refresh it. I should fix it. Anyway, so the fundamental philosophical principle about this whole story is, should someone have the legal right or the sovereignty over their own body? That's the question that I pose to you. That's the question we're all posed. Should the government write laws that dictate what you are allowed and not allowed to put in your own body? That's really the point. People like Jeff Berwick from Dollar Vigilante, he's pretty explicit about this kind of stuff. He would say, you have sovereignty over your own body. You put in it whatever you want. Not that he would recommend it or anything like that, but it's your free choice, he would say. And I'm largely with him on that. Your body is your possession, I believe. So as long as you're not harming anybody else, right, I think you should have sovereignty to do with your body whatever you want to do with it, unless it's not using your fist to hit someone else's body, because that violates, the non-aggression principle. Don't harm anybody else. But if you wanna use these substances, whatever they happen to be, I think you should have the right to do that. Now, it's a huge philosophical and legal argument, because if people get addicted to them, then they might turn to crime to fund habits, and that's not a good thing. And yeah, I understand all that. It's a very complex problem that's been going on forever, and the cryptocurrency thing and the internet has just brought a whole new dimension to it. So yeah, anyway, the news was that the appeal has been denied, and Russell Ulbricht still legally has been convicted of basically running a website. That's the argument, that the defense is that he was only running a website. How can he be responsible for that? It's similar to saying, do internet service providers, are they responsible for what users do with their internet connections? Are they? I don't know. It's just complicated, isn't it? It's very complicated, because if you say no, it's difficult, isn't it? Where do you catch the bad people in the process? I just don't know. It is very, very complicated, and any position that I hold on this kind of thing, it has to be open to be revised at any minute, because there's just a lot to it, and I'm no legal expert, so that's that. Anyway, let's get through the final story here before we get on to. I don't think I'm going to have time for Q&A, to be honest, because I'm at 58 minutes and I don't want this to run very long, because if people see that video and they see it's more than an hour, they might not click on it. So that's a serious consideration. But anyway, the final story here comes from CoinDesk. This headline is, some senators in the United States call for digital currency oversight in an anti-money laundering bill. This one's kind of interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Let me just check what's going on here. Sorry, I just thought I had a message from someone. So let's switch back to the article here. So I think is it 2 or 3 senators? Yeah, a pair of US senators have filed a new anti-money laundering bill aimed at beefing up oversight on digital currency activities. So this is an attempt, I think, to create a law that would apply to cryptocurrencies on the basis of, I think it says somewhere here, I think the bill mentions something like terrorism prevention, and that's always a good one, isn't it? If you want to bring something into law, they want to bring, a bill moves Bitcoin and other digital currencies closer to being defined as a monetary instrument under the guise of, anti-money laundering, right? So funds stored in a digital format and all this kind of stuff. So it says that they're writing a report, and they say this report, which should be due out 18 months after the passage of the bill. So at the minute the bill is only being called, what does it say here? The US House of Representatives called for a study into virtual currencies use for terrorism financing. So that's the research. Someone do some research. I don't know who's going to do the research, mind you. Is cryptocurrency being used to finance terrorism? That's the question that the study would propose, right? Isn't it a bit daft, though? Because that's like saying, is money used to finance terrorism? Well, of course it is, right? Money is used to finance everything. And that also means that the US dollar is used to finance terrorism and all that kind of thing. It's another very, very complicated issue, because people argue, well, if crypto makes it easier for people to finance terrorism and so on, that's another big old argument. It also makes life easier for millions and millions of good people, So should we ban kitchen knives because there's been a load of stabbings in London recently? It's the same sort of principle, isn't it? Where do you draw the line? These are all very difficult moral and philosophical questions, So I'm just gonna have to continue to meditate on these issues and try and get some clarity of my own as I gather more information, become wiser, and learn more about all this stuff. So that was a CoinDesk article. I'll post the link to that if you want to read the whole thing in the YouTube comments. Now my foot's gone to sleep. I had my legs crossed for quite a while there. Oh yeah, someone says in the comments there, the US dollar is used to fund wars. I don't think you can use cryptocurrency to fund wars now, can you? You can't actually do that. That would be interesting, isn't it? If currency was private, I say just for argument's sake, Bitcoin was the world's currency and everybody transacted in it and everyone paid taxes in it. Well, then the government would kind of have to do a crowdfund, right? Let's say we want to buy 100 new fighter planes and 100 new tanks and so on. It's going to cost 3 trillion. Please fund it, people of the country. And of course, maybe those people would say no, right? If they were asked permission, then they would obviously say no. Of course, they would say no. Most people would say no anyway. But it's the very fact that we're forced to pay taxes, and then we don't really have a direct say on how that money is spent. There's a big disconnect, isn't there, between the paying of the taxes and the spending of the taxes. It all kind of gets lost in the bureaucracy of what do you call it? Of the government and the administration itself. So there we jolly well go. Right. Yeah, special drawing rights will use to be fund wars. That's a whole nother topic, isn't it? Which is the special drawing rights is the private currency of the International Monetary Fund, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, right, I'm going to have to cut it off there. Q&A. How do I do Q&A? I don't think I can do Q&A today. I'll have to set up another stream to do Q&A. So I will honestly have to leave it there because I'm getting super dry. I haven't taken a drink the whole time. So I'm not going to close it down. Thank you all for attending this live stream of the Cryptoverse. I will put up another stream very shortly. Until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.